As the Nigerian naira continues to appreciate against the US dollar in the foreign exchange market amid the restriction of Binance, a cryptocurrency platform, Bayo Ononuga, special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, says Binance will destroy Nigeria's economy if the federal government does not clamp down on the company. Speaking in an interview on one of Nigeria's television stations on Wednesday, Ononuga accused the firm of fixing foreign exchange rates arbitrarily. Meanwhile, a former lawmaker representing Kaduna Central in the Senate, Senator Sani Shehu, has claimed that former President Muhammad Buhari destroyed Nigeria's economy, saying the former president is responsible for the current economic hardship in the country. Joining us on the show as we look at the current Nigerian economy and what should be done to ensure stability and growth is Dr. Ismael Mohammed Anchau, an economist, lecturer and director of policy and transparency, Kaduna Polytechnic. He will be discussing the current Nigeria economic issues and what should be done to ensure stability and growth. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning, my sister.
Morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Well, very quickly.
Good morning.
Yes, very
You're
quickly.
welcome.
Recent developments in the economy, starting with the clampdown on cryptocurrencies companies, particularly Binance. The cryptocurrency companies have been accused of being the ones causing Nigeria's foreign exchange problem because they fix rates arbitrarily. Is that really where our problem lies? And then what do you think of the outcome of the recent Monetary Policy Committee meeting, particularly the decision to further tighten the benchmark rate by raising MPR and also by raising particularly CRR, cash reserve ratio, which is likely to constrict the space for lending?
Okay, good morning, Nigerians. Let me start with the last one. The issue of the monetary policy, as everybody knows, is an instrument that you use to stabilize finances or stabilize the economy. Now, NPC has been used for long to stabilize Nigerian economy. If you could recall, between 2011, 2012, back up to 2010, the rate has been maintained at between 11.5 to 12%, which actually stabilized the naira. If you recall, for about 3 years, even the black market rate of naira has been 360 naira to 361. But after, changing the rate, it began to actually change. The assumption is that the monetary policy or the bank rate in particular, curb inflation, experiencing high rate of inflation. As at now, it was 29.9%, which is actually very alarming. So the MPR is supposed to use to actually, bring down the inflation. But unfortunately, all this period that the bank rate has been increased severally, we've not seen inflation coming down. Instead, inflation is going up. And the approach is even define the concept of stagflation, where if inflation is high, unemployment is supposed to be low. But in Nigeria, unemployment is high and inflation is high. So it means the situation is defying, the concept of stagflation. And as well, the monetary policy is not actually yielding results. Even though globally there is tightening in US and other countries, and Nigeria is operating within the globe, and it is also like coping. Each time there's tightening in other countries and there's no tightening in Nigeria, it's likely to affect our economy conventionally. But the reality is that even if the bank rate has been increased, it doesn't bring down the inflation because there are other issues. The cash reserve requirement as at now, I think, is about 32.5%, which is the meaning of cash reserve requirement is that central bank will ask commercial bank to keep certain percentage of money in the central bank. Now, if there is high inflation, the central bank now ask deposit money banks to keep more money, that is, the percentage will be increased. so that the rental rate or the rate at which loans will be given to businessmen will be reduced. And the bank rate, is normally increased in order to discourage, borrowing by businesses. As a result of this, you discover that production will be discouraged, there will be unemployment and other things. But basically, it is to actually go in line with the issue of stagflation, where if borrowing is discouraged, there is a reduction in unemployment, then there's going to be a reduction in inflation. But unfortunately, in the context of Nigeria, it is not working. So there is need for monetary authorities to have a look into this, probably to avoid the conventional approach. Let the NPC or the monetary authority look at Nigerian peculiarity, the development of Nigerian economy, which defies, the conventional approach. Because certain, instrument or certain economic models are only working in a perfect situation or in a perfect market. And perfect market does not exist anywhere in the world. And certain instruments or certain models are, applied in economies that are not operating in a perfect situation or in a perfect market. So that's why even if the interest rate is increased, even if there is tightening, you discover that inflation is not coming down. It only works in a situation whereby the economy is very strong, there's productivity, high rate of productivity, and the country is not import dependent. In that situation, you discover that these models will be working. But Nigerian economy is import dependent. About 75% or more than that is, being imported. So Nigeria is looking for foreign currency like dollar, euro, Chinese yuan, and so on. Like Nigeria is engaged in trade with China, therefore a demand for yuan, Chinese yuan. Nigeria is also doing trade with United States and other countries, of which the economy is requesting or is needing, these foreign currencies. So as a result of that, the naira will continue to depreciate. So what Nigeria needs to do is to boost its production capacity to be able to export more, so that more, foreign currency will come in, to be able to revive our textiles, to be able to diversify. There has been, clamor for diversification, but up to now there's nothing tangible. If Nigeria diversifies, we make the best use of our agricultural land, our mineral resources that we have, then Nigeria will have, more investors, will have more foreign currency, and the economy is going to grow. Now, even if central bank continues to use MPR, we are not likely going to get the result. Like I said earlier, the rate has been increased severally, but up to so there is structurally something wrong that is making the MPR not to work. So like I said, avoid the issue of conventional approach. Let us look at our economy, the peculiarity of our economy, based on the peculiarities of particularly developing countries or third world nations. Because it's not every economy model that will be applied to work in every.
Well, we seem to have an issue there with the audio connection. But you made a point about production, which is something we've always said on this table. You can adopt this measure, adopt that measure, unless this economy becomes productive. We are not going anywhere.
Yes.
And I was waiting for him to get to the second part of the question, which is about this cryptocurrency platforms. Hello, okay, it looks like we have Dr. Ismael Anchau back with us. Dr. Anchau, can you hear me from the studio?
Very clearly.
Okay. Earlier on, we had issues with the audio connection. If you may just continue.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that there is need to remodel these economic models to reflect the peculiarities of countries' level of development. Like during the World Bank Summit in 2023, I think I know November or December, that there is need to have a look at the economic models, because applying them blindly or conventionally on countries that their level of development is not to write home about. Like we have third world nations, we have developing countries that have peculiarities in their development. There's high rate of unemployment, inflation, and all that. So it's not each economy model that will work in all countries. So Nigeria is not actually getting it right, or the central bank is not getting it right, because the application of this monetary instrument is, not applied properly. It's not actually considering the dynamics of Nigerian economy. Nigerian economy is very peculiar. That's why, like I said from the beginning, that it is defying the concept of stagflation. Like in Ghana, the unemployment is low, but the inflation is high. So that is a right context for stagflation. But in Nigeria, it's not like that. So what Nigeria needs to do is to enhance our productive capacity, like I said, to make sure that the issue of diversification is being enhanced, to diversify in the area of agriculture, because about 50% of our population is living in rural areas, and they are producing food. So if there is, a deliberate policy to make sure that this rural population is being taken care of, and the agri sector in the rural areas is being taken care of, we are going to see a difference. Because even in the inflation rate we are having now, about 50% of the contributions of the figures in calculating the inflation is from food. And this food is normally coming from the rural areas. So there is need to do that. And as well, we have a lot of mineral resources in the country that need to be harnessed. We shouldn't allow Chinese and other, illegal miners to be coming and be taking advantage of them. We need to harness them. We need to have the local investors to actually take advantage of them. We have huge population in Nigeria. Nigeria is the largest black nation in the world. So this population is supposed to be an instrument of pride. I could remember when President Obasanjo was, contesting for Secretary of the United Nations some time ago. He was not proud of, or he was not using petrol as an instrument of campaign, but he was using population, that Nigeria is the largest black nation in Africa, which means that if functional education and entrepreneurship skills is being given to this youth, it is actually going to take to help. Now, like countries like China, like France, and some other countries that are aging, that the population is becoming old. But in Africa, in Nigeria particularly, we have young population that, we can take advantage of. The moment they are trained, they are given dynamic competencies that will allow them to unleash, their skills in, any living, in growing the economy. It will actually be better. So there's another way to look, not necessarily the monetary policy instrument, because they are not working. They are not coping inflation. Inflation is always growing. And we've not even seen anything, in as long as, structural issues has not been taken care of. And if you could remember, there was, during the Corona, 2020 up to 2021, 22, that's high, fiscal stimulus. A lot of money was pumped into the economy in the name of intervention, which is now, in the economy, even though it's in the hands of few. And the issue of the binance, that clampdown, I think is, it's a very delicate situation. We have huge, youth population that is taking advantage of the cryptocurrency as a result of high rate of unemployment. Yes. Okay.
I was just going to say, let my colleague, ask you another question so that we will manage our time better.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't answered your Binance question, the second half of the question. I'm not sure if you've responded to it. But
okay. Yes, that's what I want to answer.
Yeah, okay. If you could do so very briefly, that would be really nice. We're trying to manage time.
Okay. On the Binance, I think it's a right decision. But we have to be careful. We have to look at the market dynamics, the economic dynamics, the social dynamics. Now, Nigeria has a high rate of unemployment. And this unemployment has to do with the youth. The youth are taking advantage of the Binance. They are taking advantage of the opportunity provided by the cryptocurrency. And the cryptocurrency or the Binance is determining the rate. It's like usurping the powers of the central bank, which is not right. So there is need to dialogue or to actually interface with the Binance, not just to ban them, even though in other countries they have been banned, but there is need to interface with them, to find a way of talking to them in such a way that this illegal activity of illegally determining the value of the naira should be stopped. But to stop the operation of Binance will also have certain economic impact on the economy, because it is taking care of our unemployed youth. They are taking advantage of that to carry out certain businesses. So it's taking their time, it's taking their attention, and it's providing them means of survival. So there's need to refine it, to interface with the Binance to see how this problem is going to be resolved. Because in one way, even though it has disadvantages, but it as well has advantages. Elderly are not aware of it, but the youth are taking good advantage of it. So this is an economic or market dynamics that Nigeria needs to understand and to need to take care of, and as well take advantage of. In a way, it is a blessing for Nigeria if it is well regulated, if there's a positive interface with the Binance, so that the value of Naira would be restored.
Okay, all right. So you're saying that once Binance is sorted, the value of Naira will be restored. So, Dr. Anchau, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I'm asking because you ended on saying that they need to regulate Binance properly so that the value of the Naira can be restored. Are you placing the blame on the challenge that we have with the free fall of the Naira on platforms like Binance?
No, it's just partly. There are a lot of issues that have to do with the high rate of inflation or the rate of depreciation of the Naira. Right. It's not only Binance. Binance is just one of them.
Okay.
But fundamentally, like I said, we have challenges of food security. Yeah. We have challenges of corruption. Mm. We have challenges of gas flaring, which if there's inflation that will consume the gas we are having, Nigeria is going to have a lot of foreign exchange. And if we are also exporting and taking advantage of our quotas in the OPEC, which was, I think, based on the current budget of Nigeria, says Nigeria is going to be exporting at about 1.7 million barrels per day. But OPEC, seeing that Nigeria has not utilized, the quota that has been given to them, they now reduce it. I think about 2 months ago, it has been reduced to 1.5 barrel per day, right. Which means that right from there, the income of Nigeria is reducing. Okay. So we need to take advantage. Nigeria needs to take advantage of the available, OPEC quota, so that we'll be able to export what we have to be able to get foreign exchange, so that Naira will actually appreciate. And if you look at the contribution of the manufacturing sector, if you look at the contribution of agri sector, it's not more than 2 to 2.5%. And ordinarily, in a normal economy, the manufacturing sector should be able to have a growth of about 8%, as well as agri sector. They should be able to have a contribution of 8%. But presently, it's between 2.5 to 3%. Now, if it is put properly, now we are producing, we are not depending on the import, we'll be able to now take care of what we need, and the value of Naira will continue to appreciate. Right. And if we recall what fundamentally...
All right, Doctor, I'll come to you so you land that point, but just to add to that, you've cited a number of challenges, contributory factors to the weakening of the Naira. And a number of things you've said are on the fiscal side. However, what the CBN has done is just to use the tools that are available to them to, in terms of monetary tools, to address these concerns. So and the CBN governor did mention that it has to be a combined, they have to work in partnership. That is the fiscal side and the monetary side of things. Do you agree, as you've mentioned, because these issues you talked about didn't start with this administration, do you then align with the comments by Mr. Bayo Ononuga that this issue we're facing today is from the Buhari administration? The economy was mismanaged under his administration, and so we're just on the road to recovery following that. Senator Shehu Sani also made the same statement that former President Muhammadu Buhari is responsible for for where we find ourselves now in terms of a terrible economic situation, Naira free flow, Naira falling, hardship in the land, so many things happening. What do you align with that thought?
The monetary and fiscal authorities, so that there would be a kind of congruence. You could recall in 2023 when there was going to be this Naira swap, the Minister of Finance was not aware of it. of which she was supposed to be consulted. There was supposed to be synergy between monetary authority and fiscal authority so that there can be, like I said, goal congruence, so that there will be coordination, so that certain, monetary or financial objectives can be achieved. But as a result of lack of consultation with the fiscal authority, Nigeria, as a result of that swap, according to statistics, lost more than 20 trillion naira as a result of that naira swap. But if there was convergence, if there was interface between fiscal authority and the monetary authority, that wouldn't have arisen. But as a result of that, Nigeria lost a lot of money, and up to now, we've not actually regained our, position.
Right. We're having some challenges. We're getting back to our guest there in Kaduna. Can you hear me? I think we're still having challenges.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, good. I'd like to talk about productivity and businesses losing money. We talked about MTN this morning having very sad positions as regards to losing a lot of shareholders' fund because of the currency challenges. We also talked about Nestle, and at some point Nestle used to do about $1 billion in rev in this country. That was about 2013, 2014. They used to do about 140 billion, which is about $1 billion. But today, I think it's a meager sum of about 26 billion. I mean, what can we do about this? Our top companies losing a lot of productivity.
Well, there is need to actually look at or prioritize the issue of the manufacturing sector to make sure that we have, favorable policies that have to do with the development of the manufacturing sector. Not only manufacturing sector, but this one have to do with issue of foreign direct investors. Nestle, MTN, and the rest are foreign direct investors. They're investing in Nigeria, they're promoting employment, they are contributing to tax and all that. So there is need, they're losing because we have unfavorable, economic policies that are not actually helping them. The purchasing power of Nigerians is going very low as a result of certain policies. Increase in VAT will discourage people to have access to. Increase on electricity bills will make customers to have less disposable income, and all this have cumulative effect on the performance of these companies. The MTN, the Nestle, and related companies. And Nestle is part of manufacturing sector, which have to do with manufacturing product and be selling.
Okay. Keep speaking. Are you done?
Okay, I thought you were asking a question.
No, I wasn't asking any question. Just keep speaking.
Yeah. No, I'm not done. I'm not done.
Go ahead.
So the issue of ease of doing business need to be made to be realistic, so that these businesses, these foreign direct Nigeria, there's a lot of foreign investors that are leaving Nigeria, going to other countries because of favorable economic climate, because of the unpopular policies that are being implemented as a result of, a dictate of the World Bank and IMF. So the authorities need to actually have a look at the policies they are implementing, particularly on the issue of the manufacturing sector, because manufacturing has a lot of, has a very important role to play in growing the economy. The foreign direct investors also, they need to also have confidence in Nigeria in terms of, accountability, in terms of trust. Because when they're dealing with some Nigerian people, they discover that there's mistrust. Some are abusing the trust. So they are not very comfortable to come and invest in Nigeria. And those that are already here, they are experiencing unfavorable, policies that are not actually making their businesses to thrive.
Okay.
Dr. Anchau, there's a question I would like to ask. Why is it that from one government to the other, each government that comes our way blames the other one? When the Buhari government came in, they said, every problem created in Nigeria was caused by the Jonathan administration. Now, the Buhari administration left, you have the Tinubu administration, the same refrain. The same administration, you say, all the economic problems were caused by the Buhari administration. Why is that the case? Because in the future, we may have another president there, and he too will come there and say, it was the Tinubu administration that caused every problem. Why is it that from one administration to the other, we're always talking about the past government being better than the present one or being worse, whichever.
This is not unusual, but leaders have to learn to take responsibility for their actions. Because each decision you make, you have to take responsibility for that decision. Now, during Jonathan, Nigerian economy was doing very well. If you look at the economy fundamentals, inflation that time was just 9.8%, unemployment was just 13%, the value of Naira was very good, and Nigeria's economy was not doing bad, even though the Jonathan administration did not take advantage of, the resources, particularly in terms of, income from petroleum product. It didn't take advantage of that. So if it really fully utilized it, Nigerian economy wouldn't have been this bad. So the Jonathan administration, of course, tried best, and the economic fundamentals were not bad. But immediately 2015 came, Buhari took over. There was a problem in the Niger Delta. What we are relying on as petroleum product, that was, giving us foreign exchange, about 90% of foreign exchange, had problem because there was problem in the Niger Delta. To the point that at a point, Nigeria was only able to produce 500 barrels per day, which now reduced the income of Nigeria. And at a point, petroleum product or crude price was about $20 per barrel. So it happened that there were no resources for Buhari to use. So he had to now embark on borrowing. That was the beginning of our catastrophe in terms of debt. So Buhari administration had to be borrowing money to be able to take care of, the promises he actually took. That was the reason in 2016 Nigeria plunged into recession. But fortunately, domestic economic, policies were taken, and Nigeria quickly got out of that recession. To the extent that Ismael and Bank were even saying that Nigeria is not using conventional means, that there was direct funding. Because if you could remember, there was intervention in the small and medium enterprises, there were interventions in agri and so many other areas. So Nigeria quickly got out of that recession. So after Corona, during the Corona, because Nigerian economy started picking after we got out, to the extent that Nigerian economy the growth was 1.9%. In 2020, Corona came. So when Corona came, because the whole world was closed, and Nigeria was depending on other countries of the world to get its import. And other countries were not producing. Because like we used to say, there's over-concentration of supply chain in certain countries, advanced countries like China, like France, and some other countries that are controlling the production. So that impacted on the whole globe, and it impacted particularly in Nigeria. So from there, Nigerian economy went back into another problem. That was why in 2022, Nigerian economy got into another recession because of the effect of Corona. But because of the resilience of Nigerian economy, the economy was still not doing too bad. Not until when subsidy was removed. As a result of that removal of subsidy in 2023, between January and April, about 4 million people become poor. And between January 2023 to December 2023, about 11 to 15 million people became poor as a result of these issues. Because the administration of when we go back now that issue of Buhari, that he borrowed a lot of money, he faced a lot of problems, and he also submitted to the forces of capitalism. He removed subsidy. He increased, tariff in electricity. Right. VAT was increased from 5.5% to 7.5%. Yes. Now I'm even saying that we should increase to about 12%. So that made the economy to actually, be in a serious problem, which, this administration also inherited. But still, if you go back to Buhari was also blaming Jonathan's administration for not utilizing the resources, the ample opportunity Jonathan's administration got to make use of the resources it got as a result of high price of crude. The same thing when President Tinubu came, already there are a lot of issues in the Nigerian economy between 2015 to 2023 because of the total submission to the forces of capitalism, removal of subsidy, privatization,
All right.
and some other things that came up.
Yes.
It made the economy to perform woefully to the extent that the growth was just about 2.5%.
Okay. All right.
So the present administration is also complaining that the foundation of its problem is from Buhari's administration.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that leaders need to take responsibilities.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Ismael, Mohammed, and Anchau, for your time this morning. A lot to unpack this morning, especially evaluating the current economic situation of Nigeria. And thanks for doing justice to that this morning.